Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we've got ourselves a very cool figure to take a look at. We've got ourselves a brand new Schleich release. This is a 2023 figure, so it's our very first 2023 figure to hit my channel, which is definitely exciting. And Schleich usually releases their figures pretty quick, like not too far off into the new year when they announce them, so I'm not too surprised to see that their figures have already begun hitting their store, and we were lucky enough to grab a hold of the Tarbosaurus, and it's actually really nice. Like, I think this figure is a little underrated. Like, it looks way better than I think people are expecting it to, or realize. I'm not too sure exactly why. I've heard some people kind of, talking bad about the figure. I can understand not everybody likes Schleich's style, and I can definitely understand that, but I really do. Like, I've always been such a huge fan of Schleich, and I've actually heard a lot of people saying that this looks like it's just a retooled version of their Tyrannosaurus Rex. I can say for sure that is not the case. There are definitely some similarities. It definitely has a similar kind of a head sculpt to their Rex, but as a whole, I think it's really nice. Again, not your most accurate interpretation of a Tarbosaurus. You don't normally find that when it comes to Schleich. It's a Schleich-like version of a Tarbosaurus, and for what it is, I think it's actually really well done, as far as what I can tell so far. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at this very cool new Schleich release. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Tarbosaurus, you can see that we have some pretty nice looking skin texture, some pretty nice looking scale detail. Definitely pops quite nicely on the sculpt, but I really will say that I love the paint job of this. I love the paint scheme, and you can see that we have a very nice dark tone of color that kind of runs up and over the top of our Tarbosaurus. And you can see we have like some blacks that kind of leak down there in the palate area, down around the eye and under the eye socket and stuff. And then we have some nice variations of greens included here on the face as well. Originally, when I had seen this, I thought that the entire figure was kind of like a light brown, but here in the face, it's actually more of a greenish tone than a light brown. We do have an articulated jaw, as you usually have when it comes to Schleich releases. You can see we've got a tongue sculpted out in there that looks pretty good. Got some nice paint work on it, nice texturing to the tongue. There's not really any other paint work on the inside of the mouth, though, which is a little bit of an unfortunate aspect of the figure. You can see that we don't have like a light tone of color there for the inside of the mouth, only on the tongue. Could be worse, but it still doesn't look as good as it probably could. You can see that we also have the teeth sculpted out fairly nicely. I like the teeth on the upper jaw, and even having that kind of curved Schleich-like look, I don't think they look bad at all. The teeth on the lower jaw look a little off to me. I'm not really sure what it is, but they just kind of don't look that great. They look like they end a little bit abruptly, and just they don't look as good as they could, but that's just a very minor nitpick. I don't think they look terrible by any means. And the articulated jaw, you can see, works really well on the figure. Very nicely done. Again, you can see the nostrils sculpted out right there. You can also see the eye is painted very nicely with a yellow, given a black pupil, and you can see all sorts of difference when it comes to the different scales and everything that we have here on the face. So definitely has some really nice fine detail to the figure. You can also see some of the blacks run down here and stripe into the lower jaw as well. And we have a really nice mixture of like dark browns and blacks all throughout the head, which looks really cool. As you move up here, you can also see again some more really nice looking skin texture, nice scale detail moving back into the neck. You start to see kind of like some ridges picking up here on the top of the neck, but we continue to have really nice looking scale detail. As we lead back here though, the brown kind of tapers away and transitions to more of like a striping here, kind of a striping, like a splotchy striping as you move through the course of the figure here with the black, and then the green turns to kind of like a light greenish brown sort of a color. It's a very interesting tone of color that they've chosen for the figure. I feel like the transition is kind of abrupt right here. Well, not, I feel like it kind of is, it definitely is, but it could have been a little smoother, but still doesn't look bad. Like, I don't think it takes away from the figure at all. As you move down into the neck, though, you can see lots of skin wrinkles, skin folds. You can even see some hanging skin down here in the throat region. I will say one thing that is a little awkward about the figure is like the underside of the lower jaw is almost like sucked in, like it goes inward, if you see what I mean. It looks a little weird. And right here, the throat just goes up so high that when the figure's mouth is closed, it looks a little strange right there. Not too bad, but definitely a little bit weird. But if you open the jaw, I think it looks a little bit better as far as that area. One thing I can see, though, that I would have liked to have seen on the figure that's not present on this one would have been that classic kind of Schleich dark wash that they're so good at applying. Unfortunately, this figure doesn't contain that. You can see that we have the shoulder blade kind of protruding from the skin there as you move down. The arms are a little bit too long, but they still look okay. You can see we transition to a black here for the arms, and we do have painted nails with a light gray, which looks pretty nice. The skin texture throughout the arms looks nice as well. Moving back here into the stomach region, again, the skin texture looks really, really nice. Like, there is some absolutely beautiful looking texturing to the skin on this figure. You can also see some skin wrinkles here leading off of the stomach as the leg kind of trails right there. A little bit of skin wrinkling right there as well. The striping and stuff, that patterning that runs through the course of the Tarbosaurus is really nice and naturally applied. I love that. You can also see that that darker brown does continue to run along the back, along the spinal column of the Tarbosaurus. And we also have some grays that kind of highlight these like ridges and osteoderms that follow along the spinal column of the dinosaur. And you can see that the transition down from that brown is super, super smooth. So they did do a very good job as far as that goes. You can make out the hip bone right there. Some muscle definition here leading down into the thigh. Lots of skin wrinkles increasing, especially in the knee area as you move down. Again, we transition back to a black leg. Fairly smooth transition, and you can also see that we've got a kneecap sculpted out right there. Nice calf muscle as well as you move down. The legs are super dark as far as the actual coloration goes. As you move down into the feet, you can see the toes are spread pretty far apart here. Pretty bird-like looking foot sculpt. Nice scoots down the toes. The nails look okay as far as the sculpt goes, but I'm surprised to see that we have just black for the nails. Like, we don't have that light gray that we saw on the fingers, which I actually would have liked to have seen. I think it would have looked a little bit better with that. We do have a dew claw over there that the tag is kind of in the way for. And we've also got this tag over here on as well. I should have taken those off before I started the review. But as we lead up here, you can see kind of like some, I'm not sure if that's meant to be a vein moving through or a skin fold, but that is there. You can see more nice looking texturing as you lead out the length of the tail though, and we continue to have that kind of patterning as we move out, and it obviously is decreasing in size as we lead out toward the tip of the tail. Again, really nicely applied. It looks great the entire way out. We continue to have that nice lighter grayish kind of dry brushing over the ridges and the osteoderms and stuff there in the back, as well as that brownish tone. Really nice curve to the tail as well. You can see from up above, not any kind of like a drastic crazy turn to the tail. It looks really, really nice. Over here on the initial side, again, the head sculpt looks really good. We did start over here as far as the head sculpt goes and then kind of ended up on the other side. The only thing I will say about the teeth, you can see the teeth aren't perfectly painted. They're kind of sloppy where it looks like they just needed maybe like another coat of paint on the teeth. And actually, if we look on the inside of the mouth, the teeth on the inside are actually not painted at all, which I didn't even notice before. They're only painted on the outside, which is kind of shocking, honestly. I don't remember if that's something Schleich's been doing for a while, but I don't recall them doing that kind of, that little bit of laziness as far as the paintwork and the teeth go. But the head does look really quite nice. Like, that paint job in the face is phenomenal. As you move back, you can also see the ear actually right there. I really love how they've blended the blacks and browns together so nicely. But as you move down into the neck, you can again see the same style of detail compared to what we had just seen on the initial side. There's a slight turn, a slight right turn to the neck, but not anything major, so it's not like it stands out anymore so on this side than it did on the other side, because the detail wouldn't be too different. You can see the shoulder blade again right there as you move down. Really nice skin wrinkling and detailing all throughout the stomach over here. The arm's almost in the same position as what we had just seen on the initial side, but you can see this leg is pushing into the stomach a lot more, and you can really see how the skin is wrinkling there in the stomach region on this side compared to the initial side. And then as you continue to move along, you can again see the muscle definition in the thigh, the hip bone, all the same details we had seen on the first side. Nice transition again down to the black legs. Again, the foot sculpt looks really nice. The toes are kind of spread apart, not quite as far I think as what we saw on the first foot, but still spread apart pretty far. And then as you lead up here into the tail, you can see skin stretching off of the tail because the leg's taking such a forward step. And again, as we lead out the length of the tail, you see that nice curvature of the tail with the beautiful paintwork throughout. And again, nice looking detailing here for the underside of the Tarbosaurus as well. So honestly, I feel like it's a really nice figure, like way better than I was expecting it to be. And I had not really super high hopes for it, but I mean, it's like, I feel like Schleich is so weird sometimes when it comes to trusting their promotional images, because there are so many times where I see their promo images and then I see the figure in person and it's either like the promo images make it look great and I get it in hand and it's not that nice, or the promo images don't look so good, and then I get it in hand and it looks way better. This is definitely an instance, in my opinion, of the figure looking much better than the promotional images had led me to believe, and again, it's actually quite a beautiful looking Tarbosaurus. Now, as far as a size goes for our Tarbosaurus, actually I think we'll go the other way because the tail curves in this direction, so we could probably get a little bit more of an accurate length. For a length, you were looking at about 12¼ inches, or right around 31 centimeters, maybe a little bit over 31 centimeters, and height-wise, just shy of 5 inches, or around 12½ centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Schleich 2023 Tarbosaurus, and you can definitely see it has a pretty impressive size. It honestly is like the exact size I expected it to be. I thought it would be around the size of the T-Rex, and I'm 100% correct in that assumption because that is pretty much exactly where it is. And to show you that for another comparison, there is the Schleich T-Rex and Tarbosaurus together, the Schleich Rex that actually looking at it is a little bit bigger than the Tarbosaurus, but this is the Schleich Rex that I think a lot of people seem to think that it's kind of a retooled version of. And when you look at the two together, there's actually a pretty drastic difference. And I think the Tarbosaurus, as far as these two go, is much nicer than their T-Rex. I am a fan of that Rex, even though it's not the greatest T-Rex in the world, but I think that the pose of the Tarbosaurus is nicer, the sculpt is nicer, the paint's nicer, just overall a nicer figure than their older T-Rex. Then when it comes to Tarbosaurus figures, we have the PNSO Tarbosaurus next to the Schleich version, and obviously you can see there is a massive difference in quality and accuracy between the two, but you can also see that again the Schleich version is a little bit larger than the PNSO version, just obviously the PNSO version is much closer to what a Tarbosaurus would really look like compared to the Schleich version, which is more of like a Schleich-style Tarbosaurus. Like, Schleich has their own world of dinosaurs that are in like an alternate universe of ours, and they all have their own style, and the Schleich Tarbosaurus absolutely has that classic Schleich style. We also have the older style sculpt of the Schleich Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is just the patriotic version, and you can see that here next to the Tarbosaurus as well, isn't too far off in size. And then when it comes to the Schleich Giganotosaurus, you could see that here in comparison to the Tarbosaurus as well. Again, is a bit larger than our Tarbosaurus is. And then one final comparison, we have the three randoms that we've been using quite often with the Safari LTDU Tyrannus, the Schleich Diabloceratops, as well as the Collect Day Deluxe Dimetrodon next to our Schleich Tarbosaurus. Again, for one final comparison, and hopefully you will have had at least one of these figures to help give you an idea of the size of this one. So this brand new 2023 Schleich Tarbosaurus, in my opinion, is awesome. Like, I really, really like this. It might be actually one of my favorite Schleich figures to come along in a very long time. The sculpt is really beautifully done, and one thing Schleich is so good at doing is applying a lot of movement and skin detail to their models. Like, I feel like they excel when it comes to adding in like really tiny skin wrinkles and skin folds and stretching of skin and stuff that really shows off the movement of the dinosaur in a really realistic way. And they've done that yet again quite beautifully here with this Tarbosaurus. It is absolutely as detailed as it gets when it comes to a Schleich release, and definitely one of the things that I really do love about Schleich is how good they are at adding in fine detail to the figure. The paint job as well is quite awesome. I love the tones of color they've chosen for it. I love the way it's applied. The only thing I think I would have preferred to have seen would have been that dark wash, but even without it, like, it is an absolutely gorgeous looking paint job. I love the tones of color they've chosen as well, and they've added in quite a bit of coloration to the figure as a whole, which is also a plus. The size is very nicely done, as it is quite sizable overall. And I also love the pose. The pose is nice and natural. Sometimes Schleich does some weird stuff with the arms or just like makes their figures look a little off. This one looks great, honestly, all around. So if you are interested in picking up this Tarbosaurus, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that on the Schleich website. So make sure you head on over to the Schleich website, grab yourself this very nice Tarbosaurus, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.